Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Play It Loud. Today we're going to do a follow-up to the Atarisoft video I did the other day. This one's looking at some Atarisoft games for the Commodore 64. So the first video we did was on the IBM PC versions. I just wanted to show what people who had other computers got their hands on, and how the IBM PC was, though it is now the descendants of it are the ultimate kind of gaming PC, that emphatically wasn't always the case. So we've got a tape image attached, PacMan. So let's load this. The joys of Commodore 64 emulation is you can skip a lot of the very slow loading speeds, but I'll be editing them out even more so you won't have to endure them. So loading, ready, run. Alright, so we're all loaded, and this is PacMan for the Commodore 64, released by Atarisoft. Just make sure I've got the joystick in the right port, and I believe I do, and hit F1 and we'll be away. There we go. So the first thing you'll notice is that the graphic quality is incredibly improved over the PC version. PacMan looks properly like PacMan. The ghosts are the right colours. It all looks much better. I am controlling this with a actually a QuickShot arcade stick that I have. It's technically a Super Nintendo one, but I've hooked it up through a Mayflash, and after some software finagling, finally gotten Vice 64 to like it. So this was one of the first PacMan games I can remember playing, is this conversion. As I said in the last video, I got a Commodore 64 from a garage sale, or rather the people who had the garage sale failed to sell the Commodore 64. They knew I'd been eyeing it off. I was a kid at the time and didn't have any money, and they dropped it off to my grandmother's, and that was where I when they moved, which is why they were having the garage sale, they left the Commodore 64 at my grandmother's, and I got to experience a whole load of cool games on it. I mean, at the time I had a PC, and what's more, a PC with like VGA graphics and a sound blaster and all that, but there was something so cool about the Commodore 64 that went beyond the low tech of it. Anyway, they had an impressive collection of the Atarisoft games, largely on disc, although I know that in the UK they came out on tape, and there is documentation that they came out on cartridges. There's Atarisoft ads saying, get this cool Atarisoft cartridge for Commodore 64 and VIC-20 computers. But I've never actually seen one of the cartridges. I've never seen an image of one of the cartridges. The VIC-20 ones, yes. The Commodore 64 ones, no. So I don't know what the deal with that is. But anyway. So yeah. The point of this video is partly just to show off some alternative versions, but also to sort of have a look at the fact that the IBM PC, which evolved into being very much the dominant computer, so the IBM PC came out in the early 80s, 1981, 82, 1981, came out in 1981, and it was an okay business machine, but it was an appalling games machine. There was no... it was... And I think the Atarisoft games I showed the other day... Good lord, I missed the turn. I keep missing this turn. There we go. The Atarisoft games I showed the other day were really exemplary of early PC. They were very slow and clunky. Alright, that's it for PacMan. They were very slow and clunky, and struggled to take advantage of the hardware because there was very little hardware to take advantage of. And what the PC's advantage was that it evolved. So where the other machines all stayed static, yes, the Commodore 64 could do this so much better than the early PC, but then the PC got EGA graphics, and then the PC got much better sound hardware. It was an evolutionary thing. Anyway, that's enough PacMan. Let's try another one. Alright, this one will be familiar to many people, I suspect. This is Namco's Pole Position as converted by Atarisoft to the Commodore 64. This is one we didn't actually have a look at the other day on the PC. There's a variety of reasons for that, but principally because I couldn't get it to work. The copy I've gotten is corrupted somehow or something. Or I don't have the settings right. Who knows? Could be anything. Anyway, this is the Commodore 64 version, and this is a version I am very familiar with. Let's crank it down to 3 laps, because that'll be enough of the droning engine noise, I think. Let's go. The Fuji Speedway. So this is a real classic. Namco made this in '82. This is a very early conversion of it. Atarisoft converted it in '83, and the joy of a one-button controller is that, as the Commodore 64 had, you have to push up on the joystick to go, and the button to change gear. I would rather it was the other way around, to be honest with you. It's just very counterintuitive. It means that you're constantly steering in the top corners. This is a very competent conversion for what it is. I mean, it's fast, it's smooth scrolling. It absolutely put all the racing games on the VCS to shame. The Atari 2600 version of Pole Position is appalling. There is a reasonably good one made by Activision, but I temporarily can't remember the name of it. It'll come to me. Oh no. But yeah, so the problem is that you've got a digital joystick that you're constantly pushing up on to try and go faster, and then you're also trying to steer with that at the same time. Blew up my car. Crank down to low gear and get going again. So yeah, again, this is the kind of thing that just it wasn't really... It was possible on the PC, but it was very much harder. The Commodore 64 had a lot going for it with regards to gaming. It had hardware sprites for a start, and for those of you who don't know what that is, so on a IBM PC at the time, everything had to be programmed into the code, so the CPU had to constantly be drawing everything. Hardware sprites were a sort of, I guess the modern concept would be a kind of graphic acceleration, but it meant that you could make a sprite and the computer didn't have to address it. Like, the computer wasn't having to constantly redraw it, basically. The PC didn't have that advantage. Everything had to be drawn by the CPU on the fly. Game over. Perhaps mercifully. So, yeah, there's the Commodore 64. Oh, I don't know what that sounded like. The Commodore 64 had also a much superior sound chip called the SID chip, and it also benefited from the fact that it was outputting to your television, which meant you could adjust the volume. The PC had the PC speaker, which meant that you were always at the same volume pretty much. You could modulate a little, but also pretty much all the PC speaker knew how to do was bleep. You could... Look, there are some excellent PC speaker soundtracks out there. Some people who have done incredible things with the PC speaker, but very few who have gotten remix albums dedicated to them like the SID chip that was in the Commodore 64 has. Obviously, this is not an example of a great Commodore 64 soundtrack, but, you know, what can you ask for? It's Pole Position. And it is Pole Position. It's good fun, it's fast, it's furious. I keep crashing, but that's just because I suck at Pole Position. And it was really the first of its kind. Highly recommended if you're after a racing game for the Commodore 64 and don't mind a slightly awkward steering control. If I really wanted to drive home the difference in the Atarisoft games between the PC and the Commodore 64, the only game I would need to show you was Dig Dug. This is, without a doubt, the most startling difference between the two. Where the PC version was a brown and green and red mess, this is immediately identifiable as Dig Dug. It plays a lot faster. It looks like the arcade game. The colours are right. The speed is right. The controls are right. Maybe if I'd been able to get my copy working with the PC copy I had working with a joystick, it might have been better. But, I mean, just looking at it, it can't compare. So this is Dig Dug, Namco's Dig Dug, and it's an incredibly good port. A lot of people get up on... Oh god, have I got two-player mode on? Oops. A lot of people get up on Atarisoft for putting together lousy and rushed ports. I think it really, as this video is trying to show, it depends on what format you are playing them. Yes, some of them are very low quality. I, for example, haven't played the Texas Instruments ones, but I can't imagine they're very good because that machine is so relatively low powered. However, I think this shows if you've got a Commodore 64 or something similar, you can really get some good conversions from them. This one is particularly exceptional. The one thing that annoys me a little is the way the music interrupts. Oh no! Ugh, hate it when they gang up on you. I'm back with player 2 again. Okay, something went wrong there. Oh well, it was just player 2. The non-existent player 2. Let me see if I can get the rock to fall on this guy. Oh, I got the rock to fall on both of us, unfortunately. That didn't go quite according to plan. But anyway, this is really just demonstrating my point that this is the far superior version of the game. Don't know what was going on there. Okay, one more life and then I think we'll call it, because I'm not doing very well. He's gonna get away! Partially because this controller stinks. Got him! Haha! Made a big mess of the underground, but I got him. Okay, let's see what we can do here. Oh! He can breathe fire through walls. The cheating prick. Yeah, if there's any game I would recommend from this collection to put in your Commodore 64 library if you're collecting, it's definitely this one. It's an excellent conversion, it's beautiful to look at, it sounds right, it looks right, it plays right. Yeah, by all means, if you're after quick, fun arcade action on your Commodore 64, you could frankly do a lot worse. Alright, just one more game for today. This is Moon Patrol. This is another very early arcade game that Atarisoft unsurprisingly jumped on the rights to. F1 to start. I said F1 to start. There we go. So yeah, this is a sort of scrolling shooter meets very primitive platformer. You can shoot above and to the right. And you can jump in your little moon buggy. Oh, I was never very good at this. And yeah, the objective is very much just to go for as far as you can. The world record score in this is something absolutely inhumane. I never found it terribly interesting myself. It's a little primitive for my tastes. I mean, obviously I'm somebody who plays a lot of very old styles of games, but I don't find this quite as compelling. Probably why I don't know if that's because I'm not very good at it, or if I don't find it compelling because I'm not very good at it, or if I'm not very good at it because I don't find it compelling. We've got continues. If you hammer the F7 button enough. Technically, it's a nice enough game. It has a very nice parallax scrolling effect, which was very unusual for games of this kind of era. If I could get past this stupid hole and then the rock. It looks nice. The soundtrack's cool. Again, the sound and... Oh my god, I'm not paying any attention. The sound and music have interrupts with each other, so, yeah. Give it one more go. But yeah, I just thought I'd show off something different after... didn't just want to do the same games we did on the PC again. But it's attractive in its own way. It's got it. Bigger hole, straight into it. Of course. Countless clones of this game came out. There was a remake of it in the late 90s, which I seem to remember having a copy of. I think somebody got me it for my birthday at one point. Which was nice, but, you know, nice graphics for the time. But they didn't really do anything to update the gameplay, and so it was pretty woefully simple at the time. I think we might leave it there before I truly embarrass myself. I was going to leave it with this, but we'll just have one more look at one more game. Alright, let's try and redeem myself with a quick blast on Galaxian. So this is Galaxian, the Commodore 64 version. As with Dig Dug, it's immediately, obviously, much truer to the arcade version in looks. And it feels much better to play. For a start, you no longer have to stop your horizontal motion by pressing up, which I hugely appreciate. That was just weird. Oh! Yeah. So the controls are better, the sound is better, the graphics are... You know what? The graphics are slightly less true, like in the shapes of the monsters and stuff, than the PC version we looked at on Monday. But on the other hand, they just look better. So it's hard to argue with it. Oh god. This is why the good Lord invented turbo controllers. So much for redeeming myself with a quick blast on Galaxian. So this has been our look at Atarisoft. I might revisit some Apple II ones when I get a few copies. I've got one or two. And it's interesting to see what Atarisoft were able to do with even more primitive hardware. And how much better actually some of the the Applesoft versions are even than the PC versions. But for the moment I think we'll leave it at this. So yeah, back in the day when arcade conversions were king, the thing is, you pretty much took what you were given, and these were some of the first arcade conversions to be really identifiably, even the rather primitive PC versions we looked at the other day, they're really identifiably the arcade games. You've got to remember that they couldn't even make Space Invaders look like Space Invaders on the Atari 2600. They couldn't make PacMan look anything like as good as either version of PacMan that we've looked at today. So these were a real breakthrough for arcade conversions, and I just wanted to have a look at that and show you that and remember what Atarisoft did and what they did right. Not just because, I mean, I know a lot of people now will look at these and go, what primitive arcade conversions? And you might ask, well, why would you play these versions when there are so many better versions out there, directly arcade emulated ones on like the Namco Museum compilations and stuff? Partly nostalgic curiosity, partly to see what you could do with these machines, but I mean, some of them are very good in their own right. The Dig Dug conversion stands up. PacMan, you know, sometimes you want to play that arcade perfect version, but there is that sense of nostalgia that comes over you when you play the other versions, and I like that. So yeah, I mean, obviously I like that. That's why I play old games. So this is Atarisoft for the Commodore 64. I've been Braden, and keep on playing it loud.